Now that our login page is ready, let's go ahead and create our dashboard. So let's get back to our code here, and what we're going to do is we're going to save this file as, and I'm going to save this as dash.html. So this is going to be the dashboard. When the user logs in, we'll be landing to this page. The first thing is I'm going to change the title, and then I'm going to get rid of all these options available over here. Okay, and this is going to be more like a container fluid option, so we want the dashboard to be in full width. So let me copy this path, and let's get to the browser. Let's paste it over here and refresh. Okay, so we don't have anything yet. So the first thing what we need is a navigation bar. Let's get to our Bootstrap 5 documentation and look for nav. Okay, so this is my navbar here. You can see that we have the navbar, and we have a lot of other different types of navbar which we can use with the logo and a lot of other things. I'm going to use the one with the search bar. It's going to be very useful. So I'm just going to copy this and let's get to our code. And here I'm going to add a comment. I'm going to call this as nav. And inside this, I'm going to paste this. Now make sure that you use comments when you're using any kind of element or just adding a snippet, because this is the thing which is going to be repeating in almost every page, and I don't want to get confused if my code gets way too much bundled. So adding comments to your code will make it much more easier. So let me show you how this works. Let's get back to the browser. Let's hit refresh. Okay, so we have the navigation bar. So right click here, and if I click on inspect, now you can see that in the body tag we have a comment, then we have a closing comment, and inside that we have the navigation bar. So any elements which I'll be adding next will be exactly after the closing comment of my navbar over here. Okay, so let's customize the navigation bar. So what we're going to do is we're going to change some colors. So you can see that right now it's navbar light with a BG light. So first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to navbar dark. I'm going to set the BG to dark. Let's save that. Let's get to our browser. Let's hit refresh, and you can see that becomes kind of a black color. Now also remember that you can add your own color here. So I don't want to add my own color since Bootstrap comes with a lot of color schemes. So let's click on this color schemes here. You can see the first one. You can see the second one which we have is the primary. So I'm going to use that one. So all you have to do is just add in BG primary. So I'm just going to copy this, and instead of writing BG dark, I'm going to add it as BG primary. So save that. Let's get to a browser. Let's hit refresh, and I can see that we have that color over here. It's kind of, I think, is too bright, so I'm going to change this to a much lighter version. Okay, I think BG dark would have been fine, so I'm just going to undo this. Okay, but just remember that you can always customize this. You can add your own colors. So let's scroll down ahead, and I can see that we have a nav bar. So I'm going to call this as Hi Gabriel. Okay, so this is going to be like the home page. So if I get to the browser, let's hit refresh, and I can see that we have Hi Gabriel over here. So this is going to be more like a home page. So for the user clicks on this, he will be redirected back to the dashboard. So I'm going to link this to the dashboard. Let's call this as dash.html. So if the user is somewhere inside the employees page or the form page, and if he wants to go back to the home page, he can just click on this and he would be right over there. And I don't need a drop down menu over here. So instead what I need is I need employees button and I need the jobs button. Okay, those are the two things which I need. Let's get back to our code, and what we're going to do is instead of specifying it as home, now this is not going to be active, so I'm just going to get rid of this one. I'm going to call this as employees, and let's check how that looks. Okay, so we have employees, and the next one says link. I'm going to call this as jobs. Okay, and we don't need this drop down menu, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Okay, and I don't need this disabled one, so I'm going to get rid of this one too. Let's get rid of this one, and then we have the form. So if I hit refresh, I can see that we have employees and jobs, and the next thing is we have the form. So I want to customize this form. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a form group which has a search button merged to it. So let's get back over here. So I'm going to type it in input groups. So there are like multiple types of input groups available inside Bootstrap. See, So we get an add sign with the username and a lot of other stuff. But what I need is a search button merged to it. So if I can scroll down a little bit more, as you can see, this is the one. So we have a recipient name and the button. So this is what I actually need. So all we have to do is this. So I'm just going to copy this one. Okay, so this is the second one, and let's get to our code. And inside the form, I'm just going to paste it. Okay, let's tap this a little bit and tap this inside. Let's get to our browser. Let's hit refresh. Now you can see that we have this one, but it's kind of coming down. That's because we have the MB3, that is the margin bottom. I'm gonna get rid of this one, and let's get back over here. Let's hit refresh. Okay, that looks good. Now we need to change the button here. Okay, so I'm gonna get back to the code, and this is going to be search. Input type is search, and form control, we want it to be much smaller. So I'm going to call this as SM. Okay, let's see how that looks. If I hit refresh, okay, so we have a smaller search button here. And instead of recipient's name, I'm going to call this as simply search. So you can see that the placeholder is the recipient's username. I'm going to call this as search, and everything's going to be same as usual. And the button is outline secondary, so I'm going to call this as success, and I want the button to be small too, so I'm going to call this as ptn sm. Okay, so the type is submit, and okay, we have an ID but we don't need one, so I'm going to keep it either way. Let's get back to the browser. Let's hit refresh. Okay, so we have the search and we have the button. Now I don't want a text here, so basically what I want is a search icon. So let's get to the components here. I'm going to call this as icons. You can see that we have bootstrap icons, so you can see we can use font awesome, we can use feather, and a lot of other stuff. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to use font awesome for this one. Also we can use a lot of other options here, so let's use font awesome. I'm a huge fan of font awesome 4, so I'm going to use the font awesome 4 CDN. Okay, so we get the CDN here. Just copy this one, and here right after the bootstrap CSS, I'm going to create another link relative to style sheet, and that's the font awesome. Okay, so instead of the button, I'm going to call a icon with an I, say class fa search. Okay, so let's get back to our browser and let's hit refresh. Okay, now you can see that we have a search icon.